Hi there, I'm Jason Neufeld with Elder Needs Law, and I have clients who sometimes come to me with complicated cases, and we're using multiple strategies to protect their assets and get the government to pay for significant long-term care benefits. And so after interacting with a client who was thoroughly confused, I said, you know what, I'm going to put together a video so that you can reference it and kind of get all this stuff down pat. So with that being said, let us begin. And I want to emphasize, this is a real world example. My client who will be watching this video will know who they are. I'm changing names and, some facts because of course we always maintain confidentiality. So in this case, we're going to be talking about my 40-year-old client named Jake. Jake is not his real name. Jake is in his 40s. Jake has cerebral palsy, and so that's obviously something he's had from birth, which leaves him profoundly physically disabled, right? Wheelchair bound, needs lots of help with his activities of daily living, but cognitively, mentally doing very well. Highly intelligent, really fun to talk to, asks great questions, can absolutely make decisions for himself, but needs some assistance. Jake has income of $4,900 coming in every month between Social Security disability, which he got from a parent's work record, and he inherited an annuity. So between the Social Security payment and the annuity, he gets a total of $4,900 and also has about $175,000 in the bank. To date, between Jake and his family, they've been privately paying for home health care with things that Jake needs, and they'd like some assistance moving forward. So that's what we're here to do, and this is the case study that we're going to be focusing on. So here's the plan, but I want to emphasize that this plan was only relevant to Jake because of his unique set of circumstances. I work with lots of other people who have different conditions than Jake, and these are not the only asset protection Medicaid planning strategies available to us. These are just the ones that made the most sense for Jake after we went through the pros and cons. So I'm not getting into the world of planning strategies. I'm just focusing on, for this case study, what we did for Jake. And then I want just to give a little background to you all. Jake is really looking for, there's more than one type of Medicaid program, and he is looking for help with the Medicaid waiver program, which happens to be the long-term care program for anybody who's over the age of 18 and needs help paying for home health care or assisted living facility care. In this case, Jake does not need assisted living facility care. He is living at home, just wants help with home health care. What we're helping Jake do is significantly reduce the time that he would otherwise spend on that wait list. And we came up with our plan, which is Jake had some really practical things he needed to buy. His home needed some repairs and some upgrades. Jake had a special equipped wheelchair accessible van that he wanted to upgrade. And so we advised him to, first and foremost, because Medicaid recipients are never prohibited from spending money on themselves, or eventual Medicaid applicants are never prohibited on spending money on themselves. They're just not allowed to gift it away. So the plan we came up with was, let's spend down on some of these practical items. Because Jake became disabled before he turned 25, we are able to utilize an ABLE account, which is not going to be my focus for this video. And I have other videos on ABLE accounts, so check those out if you want to learn more about it. But that's essentially if you're under the age of 25 and you've become disabled, then you can put money away up to a certain amount every year. In 2023, that amount is $17,000. At most, you can put 17 grand in there, but that can now grow tax-free. And the Medicaid or disabled or government benefit recipient can control that money. It doesn't count against their $2,000 asset limit. So that's ABLE accounts just in a nutshell, and there's much more to it. So we bought some stuff. We put 17 grand in an ABLE account, which he can put another $17,000 come January 1st, 2024, since I'm filming this video in 2023. And everything else, about $150, went into a first-party special needs trust that is being managed by a relative of his. which he can do because he's under the age of 65. And we're leaving him with $1,500 in his personal bank account. He's got to have less than $2,000, $2,000 or less one day every calendar month. So just so you can keep your eye on the ball, here are the accounts that Jake has to keep track of. He's got his personal bank account. We're going to call that his checking account that he currently has $1,500 in. And he's got a qualified income trust, which we'll get into momentarily. And then he's got a first party special needs trust. So these are, and again, there's an ABLE account. I'm not focusing on that. So there's really 4 accounts, but for this purposes of this video, we're only talking about these 3. Personal bank account, qualified income trust account, first party special needs trust. All right. Now, as a reminder, in 2023, the Florida waiver income cap is $2,742. That number will change in future years. It changes every year. But right now, if all of your income, gross income, all sources combined before anything's deducted, all combined is more than $2,742, the excess amount, meaning anything over $2,742, must be transferred into a qualified income trust. That is every month. Okay, so here's how the math works. Jack's total income, his gross income, you may recall, $4,900. That's what comes in every month. So that means if we take $4,900 minus the income cap, which is $2,742, $4,900 minus $2,742 gets us $2,158. Okay, $4,900 minus $2,742. $2,158. Now, generally speaking, I tell my clients to put in a little more, strictly speaking, than is necessary. You can put all of it if you wanted to, but there are some good reasons why you don't want to do that. But I always say put a little bit more than is strictly speaking necessary, just in case there's a little, an interest payment or something like that would put you a few dollars over. So instead of $2,158, which is the minimum amount, I'm advising Jack to put in $2,200 every month from his personal bank account, where his income comes into the qualified income trust account. All right, so now after we take $2,200, remember Jack started with $1,500. He has now received $4,200 in income, but $2,200 of which is transferred out of his name into the qualified income trust. And now that means he's left with $4,200 in his personal bank account. So again, reviewing the account balances, the checking account started with $1,500. After he received his income, but some of it was moved into the qualified income trust, he's left with $4,200. The qualified income trust, we only moved $2,200, so that account balance is just that. And the special needs trust still has $150,000 in it. Okay? All right. Now, we know the Medicaid waiver program says you have to spend at least one day below $2,000 in your personal bank account. We just said Jack's got $4,200. That's okay if he has $4,200 temporarily, because Jack's got lots of stuff that he needs to buy and to live his life every month. So as long as one day every calendar month he is at or below $2,000, Jack will be fine. However, some of these accounts have restrictions on how the money, one of these accounts, I should say, has restrictions on how the money can be spent. So we want to focus on that one first. So we have the qualified income trust. So when we're talking about how to spend down, this is in a particular order. First, I want Jack to look at his qualified income trust. Now remember, I seen Jack doesn't have control over the qualified income trust account. Jack is the beneficiary, meaning the money has to be spent for him, but it's really his family member who is a trustee. So when I say Jack, I really mean his family member. I am going to explain, ought to be looking at the qualified income trust first to spend on any medical or health related items. The most common example is, even though Medicaid pays for a lot, it doesn't pay for everything necessarily, meaning Jack may want 50 hours a week of home health care, and Medicaid may only approve 40 hours a week of home health care. So using qualified income trust funds to pay for that 10 hours a week of home health care that the government isn't covering would be a great use of qualified income trust funds. Okay, so he should get that down. I want the qualified income trust to zero out every month as much as possible. He then needs to look at his personal bank account, right? Remember, I just said it's $4,200. He's got to get down to $2,000 or less at some point in time during the month. So for this, he should be using for anything else, meaning entertainment expenses, home expenses, utility bills, anything. There's no restriction on how Jake can use his personal bank account as long as it's for him. Qualified income trust has some limitations. Okay. And then finally, if he's run out of qualified income trust funds and he's down to zero in his personal bank account, fortunately, he now has his special needs trust, or of course we have that ABLE account that he can draw from to, again, pay for many, many other items that he might need. So I hope that makes sense. That's how we're going to get Jack down to a qualified income trust. If he doesn't spend it all, it can accrue, but it's not a good idea. We really want to get that down to zero or close to it every month. The checking account we want at or below $2,000. So just to illustrate it a little bit more detail, the qualified income trust is really the account that we have to be somewhat concerned about how money is spent. So again, I added some examples here. In green are items that are clearly fine for qualified income trust funds to be spent on, and then all these items in the red are really not appropriate uses for qualified income trust. So every once in a while I have clients who say, well, we are just having a real hard time finding non-medical or health related expenses to spend our money on, and we have alternative solutions to that. Usually we're talking about a pooled special needs trust. Again, not the subject of this video because it doesn't apply to Jake, and we're focusing on this case study. In Jake's particular case, he's got lots of stuff, lots of extra medical expenses, and certainly plenty of non-medical expenses, so he's going to have no problem spending his qualified income trust funds. But he's not going to spend a qualified income trust on there are some really practical things. You go, why not? It's just kind of ridiculous restriction. Qualified income trust should not be spent on property taxes, maintenance, education expenses, car expenses, cell phone expenses, electronics, vacation, things like that. His personal account, his special needs trust, to an extent his ABLE account, all that can be used for the non-medical expenses, whereas the qualified income trust should be used for medical or health related expenses. Again, I gave some more examples. The home health care, Medicaid maybe doesn't approve the highest end wheelchair, and Jake wants, the best wheelchair money can buy. God bless him. Go drain your qualified income trust first to partially pay for that or anything else, any other medical related expense you might need. Sometimes I have clients who say, well, because Jake still has his mind and the ability, they're going to say, well, we've put the money in the qualified income trust and we're going to continue to put it there every month, but then what we'll do is we'll take the money out of the qualified income trust and return it to Jake, and he can then spend it on health or medical related expenses. Jason, is that okay? The answer is absolutely not. Money from a qualified income trust or special needs trust or an ABLE account should never be returned to Jake personally, meaning it should never go back to his personal bank account for him to just spend. Even if it's being spent appropriately, it has to go from the trust, the qualified income trust or the special needs trust, from the trust to third parties to pay for things that Jake needs or Jake wants. Okay, money is never being returned to Jake. All right. And also, sometimes people get confused with the qualified income trust, where when we apply, they'll put the correct amount of money, but they'll forget that this is a dance that has to be done every month, meaning you don't just fund a qualified income trust one time. Qualified income trusts have to be funded every month. So, and if your income changes, then the amount that you put in because an interest payment comes in, or a dividend or something like that, or you just take an additional distribution from an IRA, if your income changes, then the amount of money you put into a qualified income trust must change, right? Every penny above the income cap must go into the qualified income trust account every single month, from the month that we apply for Medicaid to every single month thereafter for the rest of the Medicaid recipient's life. So forever, you are doing this juggling of accounts where money might be coming into a personal bank account. A portion of it must go into the qualified income trust every single month. Okay? So I hope that makes sense. and I hope that you can use this as a reference and take a look at, I try not to read the slides, but I hope the visual and the audio representation and education is making this stuff sink in. And that's really all I got for the time being. This is more about me. If you're watching this and you're not a client and you're anywhere in Florida, we're happy to help. If you want good, valuable information, visit our YouTube channel and subscribe, and always happy to consult with people. We consult with people and represent people throughout the state of Florida. And then here's a shameless plug for my book. If you're interested in learning more about how to get Medicaid to pay for some or all of your long-term care expenses without having to sell your house, without having to wait 5 years, without having to go broke first, check out our book on Kindle or have a hard copy sent to you from Amazon. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you found this valuable. If you're on YouTube, please subscribe to the channel. Please share this with anyone you think might find it valuable, and help me with my mission to make Floridians more educated legal consumers. Thank you.